Welcome to the Fabulous 50s and Beyond. I'm Jim Pollard with my co-host Jeanetta, and today we're going to be talking about an aging conference that's coming into the area, how to care for aging adults, and I like the last part, and yourself. And because that's what a lot of people don't realize, that when you're caring for aging adults, you need to be careful and take care of yourself too, or somebody's going to need to be taking care of you. Our guest today is Astarre Gudino, and she's going to be talking about this conference. She's in charge of it. We're going to be talking about some of the guests on it, and so you stay tuned and we'll be right back.
And he'd say, go with what you got. Start from where you are. Give it your best shot. Keep reaching for that star. Get in the race. Keep your own pace. Keep moving and never stop. Just go. Go with what you got.
Welcome back. Our guest today is Astarre, and she used to actually be on the other side of the camera, if that's all right if I say that.
Yes, I did.
And now she's working with West Kentucky College here, and in this area. What is the official area where you work? I know they do a lot of programs for the public, right?
Oh, yes. Well, here at West Kentucky Community and Technical College, we do programs for pretty much the entire Purchase area. We do all of our marketing to the entire community here. We try to branch out into all the different counties. A lot of times people think that we are here, like right in McCracken County. This is our location, but our programs reach much further. We also work a lot of our online programs here, so that whether you're in Paducah or Nashville, Tennessee, you can actually take classes here at the college.
And so that's the actual area, and it's your department that's sponsoring this conference.
Yes, sir.
It's and when I said in the opening, I meant that too, because we've run into a lot of this. You know, that we're in this is our 4th year for this show.
Oh, wow.
And so we've run into a lot of different people, and it's a big problem for a caregiver. If they don't watch out and they aren't careful, they're going to get so caught up in the caregiving that they're going to actually need to be cared for. Sometimes they get sicker than the sick person.
Right.
And I think this is a good conference topic, and one that can reach out into them and talk about different things. Now, some of your guest speakers will be relating to different areas of that, right?
Oh, yes. We have Marie Smart. She's coming from the Sanders Brown Center at the University of Kentucky. And she is going to be doing her keynote is going to be the art of caring for elders. And then she's going to do a breakout session in the morning that is titled Families Living with Alzheimer's. Because it's actually the Sanders Brown Center is actually an Alzheimer's care facility where they do lots of research and they come up with lots of groundbreaking, things in that area. So we have not only that, but we also have Medicare Part D. It's no longer new. When I spoke to that speaker, Crystal Williams, she was saying that, a lot of times people call her and they say, we need to learn about that new Medicare. And she's like, well, it's 3 or 4 years old now, so it's no longer new. And she wants to make sure that the people who need that information are going to be getting it. We have macular degeneration, which is an eye disease that comes along with aging. I know I've probably heard of it before, but it's not something that I'm really familiar with, so I'm excited about that one for sure. I came up with this concept, and I'm the CE coordinator, so I do lots of the continuing education and community service classes here at West Kentucky Community and Technical College. And as a high school student, I had to help take care of my grandmother when she was passing, and that was hard for us, because she came to live with us in our house, and me, 2 sisters, my father and my mother, and none of us had a clue. We didn't know what to do at different stages. She went through, she had eye disease. I had no clues what it was called at the time. She went through the different stages of Alzheimer's. She had to get her foot amputated. There was times when she wouldn't eat. You don't know if it was the first time for us going through that, and we didn't know what we could do, what we couldn't do. So we actually have somebody from the Caring People Services that's going to come in and do a segment and do a breakout session on when to get a sitter for the family, or when it's time for them to have more care than what you can give them. Because I think if we would have known that at that time, we may have been able to help her even more had we known, you know, what services were out there and what stages to bring other people in, you know.
I had to do the same thing with my mother. We took care of her at her home for quite a few years, and then she ended up in a nursing home, but not for long. She was only there about 6 months. And,
Right. When we put her in the nursing home, it was only because she had had a limb amputated, and there was no way for me at 16 or 15 or 16 and for my older sister at 18 to take care of her, and my parents, because they both worked full time, and everybody had to rearrange their schedules, and there was no way for us to rearrange our schedules where there was somebody going to be at home all day. You know, what we did was try to block it to where from noon on somebody would be there with her, but after she had an amputation, somebody really needed to be there to help her get around 24 hours a day, and so she went to the nursing home.
Was she a diabetic also?
Mm-hmm.
I thought when you said amputation that's usually goes with diabetes,
Yeah.
and that's a hard disease.
It is, and she ended up with cancer. I mean, it was,
So she had almost
Right.
everything.
yeah, she had cancer of the liver, the lung, the colon, and the spleen.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Plus diabetes,
Plus
and,
diabetes
and Alzheimer's.
and Alzheimer's.
Wow.
And we took care of her for like a year and a half, you know, until
Well,
we had to put her
But
in.
you know, we're supposed to help take care of our
Mm-hmm.
parents. To you, it was your grandparent.
My great grandmother.
Oh, your great grandmother. Well, that was really good.
So that's where the idea conceptualized, because I remembered somebody had mentioned something about an elders conference, and I thought, well, that might be wonderful, but we need to learn how to take care of them and ourselves, because we stayed a really, really high level of stress.
It is. It's very stressful.
Yeah, we like I said, we've heard this from a lot of different, because I think everybody that you mentioned that's going to be here, other than the lady from, is it the Susan Brown Center?
From the Sanders Brown
Sanders
Center.
Brown. I think we've had representatives from all the other organizations on our show at one time or another, and we've had people representing different Alzheimer's agencies or facilities, and this is the big thing, is that people get so caught up in their caregiving that it breaks them down, and I mean they just won't take a break. They won't back up from it and look at it from a distance for a day or even an hour. I mean, I know that we've had some discussions if somebody would just take a half a day off, like Caring Services bringing a sitter for a half a day to where they can back off, and this needs to be taught, I guess is a good word to say, or it needs to be talked about so that people can find out about it. So I think that the topic of the conference and the theme of the conference and the way the direction that it's going into is one that we need to get a lot of people there to see about. And now our show is aimed at people 50 and older, but we have younger people looking at it, but it's a lot of the 50s and 60s that are taking care of the 70s and 80s.
Right.
And that's the reason that they need to attend a conference like this, and actually see what's going on and what's going to happen. I know that Medicare Part D, you were talking about, Crystal, we've talked about that on this show several times, and even though it's not a new program, every year it is a new program because of the changes that they make in it.
Right.
You know, I mean, she'll call us and she'll say, well, there's new changes coming out in November, you know.
Well, and then it's new to you, because
When somebody goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're 3 or 4 years away from needing Medicare Part D, and then you reach that state, even though it's not a new program, it's still new to you. It's kind of like a used car. You know, it's not a new car, but it's new to you. You know,
That's
and
right.
you're just as excited about that car as if, you know, but you still have to learn it and get the manual and get the book and learn all these different things that could possibly, you know, go wrong with the car, or that are, you know, the specifics of the car. And that's the same thing with Medicare Part D, because 2 or 3 years ago, this person didn't need it. Now they need it, so it's new to them, and they need somebody that can explain it to them, you know, very thoroughly. So.
Well, I know she gave us some very good advice when she was here on it, because at that time, Jeanetta was not taking any medication, didn't foresee the need for any medication. Now I was taking heart medicine, and so I got on it. She says, now you need to take a minimal program just in case something happens during the year.
And
sure
something
enough,
did happen.
Something happened, and she ended up with a very expensive prescription item that she had to take. And as a result of having taken like an entry-level part into it, it helped with it and helped pay for it. And now it's really but people need to know this. I mean, because the general public will say, well, I'm not taking any medicine, I don't need anything.
But you don't know.
And
that can
and
change rapidly.
quickly.
Yes.
Quickly. And that's another reason I'm glad that she's coming, because she's also over SEP and the SHIP coordinator.
Yes.
I mean, she does so much for the world of the aging and elders and for the children who are taking care of them, that she'll have so much to share. And you really have to have somebody that is an advocate for something, because just because I know about Medicare Part D does not make me an advocate for it. Right. And you may be asking me constant questions, and if I, I'm not thrilled with it, or it's so detailed, and I'm like, well, just sign here, do this, do that, do that. Well, then you have this coverage, but you still don't have a clue what you've done with it, or what it's good for. And if you have someone like Crystal in the PAD office to come in and say, this is Medicare Part D, and then break it down over an hour, and say, this is Part A, Part B, Part C, and subgroups, then then you've got a much more thorough understanding of something that you wouldn't have had.
Yeah, and that's important today. I noticed also that you're going to have something on legal issues.
Yes.
That's something that's very important also today, because sometimes people just don't know what they're entitled to legally.
Right, and what we're gonna have somebody that can come in and do will preparation, that can come in and talk about what you can do if you feel like you have unfair treatment as an elder, just a very wide range of topics.
Right. Well, that's good. People need to know, and people need to know. Did I see somewhere on television where there is now an elder abuse ombudsman position? I seem like I saw that on TV, that in some states that they have that now, to where that they will. There's somebody that you can go to, an agency that you can go to when you feel like that there has been elder abuse. And there is a lot of that. I know we heard a real good speaker from AARP talk about that one time, and she was really good at one of the conferences and talked about elder abuse and what goes on today. It's horrible in some situations.
And I think a lot of that goes back to the stress. It goes back to that high stress level, because as a parent, you get so frustrated with your children, and it's like, if you were anybody else's child, you'd probably be beat to death, or just something.
That's kind of like, we were in business for a lot of years, and she was always my bookkeeper. And boy, she stayed on me all the time about receipts. And I mean hard. And I told her one day, I said, honey, if I wasn't married to you, you would be fired as my bookkeeper.
Right.
And then he would have been sorry.
Because he wouldn't had any receipts and he'd have been audited.
Yeah, and we were audited.
We were
audited. A field audit. They came to our house. Well, actually, they went to our accountant's house. Spent a week on our personal income tax.
Unfortunately, she had all the receipts.
And she had all the receipts.
Right.
Well, and that goes back because
if
it's
it'd
like
been up to him, he would have had nothing.
Right. And he would have been ready to throw something. He would have been so stressed out. He would have been so stressed out.
Yeah.
At the end of that week, he'd have been ready to throw something. And people do that with elders, because especially when they're going through Alzheimer's and they're asking you the same question, or you feel like you've been repeating yourself over and over again, and you just got off work and your kids are running around the house, and then it's just one extra thing and you don't want to look at it that way, because this is your loved one, this is your parent, but any kind of extra stress on top of your everyday stress can really push you over the top. And a really, really good person, somebody who is a great person, great morals, great ethics, can just do something one time that they regret forever.
Yep, that's right.
Well, we need to take a break. Pam's out there in the wings waiting to talk about nutrition, and Jeanetta's going to get with her, and we're going to talk about our nutrition, and we'll be right back. You stay tuned.
We welcome back Pam Ward today. Pam is a registered dietitian at Western Baptist Hospital, and we're so glad to have you, Pam.
I'm glad to be here.
What are we going to be talking about today?
Well, today I want to talk about prescription medications and food interactions. Things to watch if you're on particular medications, things to watch eating or drinking, and the timing of them.
And almost all of us are on some type of medication.
We
aren't
really are, and as society ages, we're on more and more, and very few
Right.
people are on just one. They may be on one, they may be on three. I see people literally come in the hospital on 12, 15 or more, and the problem is each of those can have different interactions or food-drug interactions, but they also can interact with each other. So the very best thing really you can do is, one, make sure you read the information that's provided with your medication, and two, if you have any questions at all, ask your pharmacist or ask your physician.
I know. I don't see how people keep some of their medications straight. I mean, they have so many.
They really do. And again, we're aging as a society, and as we live to be, we live longer, we're having more illnesses, and we've got more medications to take care of them. And it's a good thing, but it also comes with some potential problems.
Right. And sometimes one doctor doesn't know what the other doctor has prescribed for you, and so you can get in trouble.
You're exactly right, and it's a very good idea to keep a list of your medications on your person or in your purse. One, so when you are at the doctor's office, they can see what you're on through all your physicians. But two, if you're ever taken to the hospital in an emergency situation, they need to know what medications you're on. So it's a very good idea for everyone to keep in their purse, in their billfold, somewhere a list of the medications and the dosages that they're on.
Right, because they want to know that too, don't they? Even the vitamins, they want to know.
And actually vitamins and herbal supplements, that's a very good point. They interact with many medications, so your physician certainly needs to know if you take anything like that. They need to be included with your medications, and we don't think of them that way.
I know. But they are.
They are, and they have
yes.
food-drug interactions too, so you have to be very careful with them.
Okay, well, what are some of the foods that, maybe we should watch out for? Are there some that are affect more medications?
Well, they tend to not just affect one medication, they tend to affect a class of medications. For example, grapefruit and grapefruit juice are a biggie. In fact, we don't even serve them at the hospital anymore unless it's by request, because there are so many medications that they interact with, particularly blood pressure medications, allergy medication, medications for depression. Grapefruit juice is digested through the same liver pathway that some of these medications are, so they can affect the absorption of the medication. So if you're going to eat grapefruit, if you're going to drink grapefruit juice, just don't do it within 4 hours of taking your medication.
Because I think it's the acid. Sometimes
that's a big part of it, because
right.
acidic foods in general can affect the absorption of your medication. But for some reason, grapefruit in particular seems to be an issue.
Right. So don't eat it close to the time
4
you're
hours.
taking your medication.
Yeah, make sure you have a 4-hour window there.
Because it is good for you, and weight loss, it helps weight loss
Well,
too,
and that's the thing too, with almost all of these foods, they're very good options. They're definitely a part of a healthy diet, so I'm not saying necessarily to avoid
Right.
them. It's the timing. And again, with the grapefruit or grapefruit juice, 4 hours is what we're looking for.
Right, okay. Well, what are some of the other foods that...
Well, if you're on a diuretic or a water pill, whatever you want to call it, a lot of those will deplete your body of potassium. So you need to make sure that you get adequate potassium. Now, often the doctor will prescribe some sort of potassium supplement with the diuretic, so it will take care of that, but it is something you need to be aware of, you need to watch for. You also may need to take additional magnesium with them, about 100 milligrams a day. So if you take a diuretic or a water pill, and it is one that depletes your body of potassium, probably need a multivitamin and make sure it has at least 100 milligrams of magnesium.
Okay. Now, aren't bananas good sources of potassium?
They certainly are.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they certainly are. And again, there are a lot of foods out there that are, and if you make a concentrated effort to eat those foods, you may not need the supplementation, but for most of us, our diets are not exactly what we would hope they were, so better safe than sorry.
Right, better take a supplement then.
Better take a supplement, yeah.
Right.
And also zinc with these diuretics. You also want to pick up your zinc intake, and you can do that through food, shrimp, whole grains. Both are good options, but it's just something to be aware of.
zinc I always take when I'm getting a cold.
When you're getting a cold.
When I feel like I'm getting a cold.
Yeah, there's
I
some
always-
research out there that shows, it will help shorten the length of the cold and make the symptoms not quite so bad.
Okay.
Another thing is vitamin K, and this is one I really want to stress, and it's with blood thinners, and I have a lot of people tell me I'm on Coumadin and I can't eat foods that contain vitamin K, and that's not really the truth. What the truth is you want to keep your intake consistent. Vitamin K is in your broccoli, your green leafy vegetables. All of those are parts of a healthy diet, and I wouldn't tell anyone not to eat them, but be consistent. Try to eat about the same amount on a daily or weekly basis. And that way your Coumadin can be adjusted and keep your levels right where you want them to be. But you don't have to avoid those foods. You just have to maintain some sort of consistency with them.
Okay, because I had heard that about
I have
vitamin
a lot
K.
of people tell me, oh, I can't
Yes.
eat that, I'm on Coumadin. And again, it's not an avoidance of it. It's a consistent intake that is the problem or is the issue.
Okay, is there some other food that we should know about?
Well, with such as tetracycline, dairy products are a big one. So if you're on tetracycline, I believe the window's 2 hours before and 2 hours after. I certainly, again, wouldn't want to tell anybody no dairy products,
Right.
but just watch when you eat or drink.
Okay, well, Pam, we thank you for being with us again today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week and hearing what you have to say.
I'll be here.
Welcome back. Our program today, we're talking about a conference that's going to be here. We didn't tell the date yet.
Oh, we have to do that.
It's September the 28th from 8:30 in the morning to 4 o'clock, and it's here at the college, right?
Yes, sir. It's going to be in Crounce 101, which is our new UK engineering building.
Oh, that's the building it's going to be in. Okay.
Yes.
I wasn't familiar with that building, and I guess that's the reason, because it's the new engineering building.
Yep.
And I've not been in that building.
It's a great building. It's a beautiful, beautiful building.
Yeah. So it's September the 28th, and we want you to be mindful of that date. Where can they call to get information?
They can contact West Kentucky Community Technical College Training Center at 534-3335. And anybody can answer that phone. Anybody who answers that line has the authority to register you for the conference. The conference does cost $25 per person. That includes all materials, lunch is included, and you do not have to pay for the conference when you call to register. You can bring a check the day of the conference, or you can have, if your company is paying for it, then we can bill them.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because I'm sure some of them will be there by their company.
Right.
And so let's get back. We were talking during the break about some of the things that's going to be at the program. You were talking about Miss Merriman going to be there, or talk about that.
Right before we went to break, we were talking about elder abuse,
Right.
and we were talking about how stressful, it all gets. And we're actually going to have Merriman Kemp, the founder of the Merriman House and Women Aware, which is like a safe house that is located here in Paducah. She is actually going to be here to talk about elder abuse. And she's going to talk about the signs. She's going to talk about how to prevent. And that is going to be a very, very good breakout session. I'm excited about it.
And then your final session you were talking about?
Well, that's not the final session. We actually have Joan England, who is going to be coming from the Fresenius Medical Care, dialysis of Paducah and Murray, to talk about that particular aspect of aging. We have you, Jim Pollard, who is going to be there to do a session on making everyday Christmas. And that's going to be a very good session as well. I think some people may be familiar with what you do on the side. I don't know. And then our last session is going to be with Dr. George Kyle of Paducah. He has his own private practice, and when we leave the conference, we're going to know all about stress and how to manage stress, time management, and he's going to focus on how to manage stress while caring for your aging loved one.
Well, it seems like a very full conference, and there's going to be a lot there. You know, talking about different healthcare issues and caring for aged adults and dealing with stress, and I guess that the hardest thing in dealing with the adults is stress, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I think the stress is what makes it the hardest part, because every day we have so much going on in our lives that we have stress, and any extra part of stress can put you over the edge. And the only way to learn about stress, the only way to deal with stress is to kind of hear, you know, some of the signs that you are becoming too stressed out. Because I don't know about you, but I'll just keep saying, sure.
Right, you don't know how to say no.
You don't ever say no. I don't want to say no to my children. I don't want to say no to my husband. I don't want to say no to my boss. You know, if they say, Miss Gudino, I need you, yes ma'am. You know, I'll do it. If my oldest son comes and says, Mother, yes, baby, you know, and then it gets to a point where you're just like, no, you know, and you don't want to do anything else. And so what I'm hoping that you'll get from that last session is how to stop yourself from getting to that point.
I started to say, one of the things of dealing with parents, if you have a child, you can discipline them and make them do what you want them to do.
That's true.
When it becomes an adult and it's your mother, excuse me, or your father, it's a whole different ball game. And it really is. And it's hard when the child actually becomes the parent to the parent. And that you can't, like I say, you can't discipline like you would a 4-year-old.
I have a funny story about that. She was my great grandmother. Her name was Mama Marie. That's what we called her. And she raised my father. So he called her Mom. Mm-hmm. And when she was going through her, you know, the early stages of Alzheimer's, she didn't realize that she was now in his house and that we had taken her from her house, right, you know, and she lived here with us. Well, my father and my mother, they were playing and kind of poking each other in the shoulders. You know, my mom was sitting down at the computer and he was kind of, you know, just messing with her and, you know, aggravating her. And so she turned around and pops him, you know, and says, "Oh, Charles, leave me alone." And so he turns around and said, don't pop me, and, you know, kind of, you know, pushed her in the shoulder, you know, and said, I can do what I want to do. And, you know, they're just playing. Well, my grandmother just, you know, she lost it because she was not, you know, there to understand that it was loving, you know, what they were doing was loving, and they were in their early 40s, so, you know, they were just playing. And she actually stands up and pops my father with her cane and sends him upstairs to his room. And he was 44 years old. And you know, he's like, Mom, you know, I don't want to hear it. You don't talk back to me. And so there goes my 44-year-old father up the stairs to his room. And he's so upset. Yeah. And what can you do?
You can't.
And for him, I'm sure that was a very stressful moment. And for everybody else, it was just
it was fun. It was really funny.
It was really fun.
Now that you look back on it.
I got to tell you, that's a good way to end this show because we're out of time. But that's a good story to end on, I'll tell you. But I want you to, who are out there in the audience today, I want you to be at this conference because it'll be good for you. Mm-hmm. And the way we ended the show is what a lot of my talk is going to be about, is how to deal with it with humor. So you and make everyday Christmas Day. So we want to encourage you to be at this conference. It's September the 28th. And it's here at the college at 8:30 to 4 o'clock. So you be there. And remember that we'll be back next week with another show. And we're excited to have you here with us, Astarre. And you're welcome to come back again. And remember now, use it or lose it.
Can't see as well as I used to. Can't run as far or as fast.